Hello, welcome to Fandom Friday, a podcast focused on various fandoms brought to you by Fan Nation, the Geek Stravaganza, the Ocean County Library's annual all-ages fandom library con. On today's episode, we will be discussing Buffy the Vampire Slayer. My name is Chris. I'm one of the teen librarians at the Lakewood branch. Joining me today, we have...
My name is Summer, and I am the teen librarian from the Long Beach Island branch.
My name is Joanne. I am currently a youth services librarian at the Berkeley branch, but I have many years as a teen services librarian under my belt.
My name is Diane, and I'm an information services librarian in the Toms River branch, and I raise some teens, and I was once a teen.
Yeah, I think most of us have been a teen at some point. And I think we were teens, much younger at least, when we were watching Buffy originally.
I was a teen not too long ago.
So you'll remember being a teen much better than us. We'll be discussing what about the show makes it so appealing to people and why we're still even talking about it today. So to kick it off, what is it about Buffy the Vampire Slayer that you liked the most?
I think, one of the things that I liked a lot was that Buffy is a hero and a heroic character who is very feminine at the same time. And I think oftentimes in pop culture, to be a strong female character, you can't have any traditionally feminine traits. Not always, but a lot of the time. And she was a really strong character that never sacrificed her femininity. And I really liked that about her. She wasn't just all action all the time. She was like, I'm going to hunt vampires, but I also really love shopping and hanging out with my friends. And I really like parties and cheerleading. And I liked that dichotomy that was so inherent to her.
I liked how balanced the show was in terms of, I'm not a scary movie, scary show kind of person at all. Buffy is basically as scary as I will go. So it wasn't even something that I wanted to watch originally until one of my friends told me, it's really not scary. You should give it a try. I actually started watching it. I feel like I grew up with Buffy because it started where all the main characters were in their sophomore year of high school and I was in my sophomore year of high school. So that's when I came to it. And part of why I still love it, I think, is because we do have affection for shows that hit us when we were a certain age. But I really liked how it was funny, but it was also serious and it had scary moments and silly moments. And I didn't want to watch something that was always scary on the edge of your seat all the time. The silliness lightened it up and there was normal relationship, I want to date this boy, but I can't tell him. So there was normal kind of high school drama in addition to I have to save the world. So I think that was one of the main appeals for me, is that it was just kind of a little of everything.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit older than most of you, so I read it. I watched, it a long time ago, and I think what I liked it was that there was good chemistry between the characters. I did like Buffy's character was a very strong woman empowerment, until today. She's just, and many times she says, I'm just a girl, but she really was a powerful, strong female lead. And again, for the time, they had a lot of pro LGBTQ characters, with Willow coming out and things like that. That for that time, you didn't really see that in TV. Now it's much more prevalent, but it wasn't then at all. So I think that's what I really liked about Buffy.
I really liked all the characters where they had to mention it wasn't oh, Willow's the tech nerd, and that is all she does. She's still the tech nerd at the end of the show, but she's had this whole character arc of her being this meek, mousy girl, and then coming into her own, finding out that she has powers and being a witch, and then going off the rails where you have her being the villain at one point, and then recovering from that. Yes, she's changed. Yes, everything's changed, and all the characters had some sort of arc where people grow and change. So okay, yeah, this is your favorite character and you get to grow with them, because I started watching it in middle school, so I'm a bit younger when it was airing, and you're changing so much between middle school and high school, where I was yeah, of course the characters are changing, everyone is changing. So I really enjoyed that, and I love vampires so much. So I was reading Interview with the Vampire in middle school, and my friend was oh, well, if you're reading that, watch Buffy, because I had a picture of Billie Eilish. She's we got a character for you. And I was like, you do. Spike is fantastic.
I feel like Buffy does blend into other vampire fiction so seamlessly. I think I first heard of Buffy when I was reading a separate vampire book. Like they reference it really briefly, and I was like, okay, whatever that is. And then I think I found it randomly on TV. Like it was just on one day. I was like, oh, okay. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And like there's this cool girl, and she's like fighting a vampire in a cemetery, but she's wearing like this amazing cheetah print jacket that I love because I'm like obsessed with all the clothes. I'm obsessed with fashion. So that's also a thing that appealed to me a lot about it.
I really like that it was like the sense of humor where she like had this like really serious, like I have to hunt vampires and save the world, but like also like can take a joke with it and like make fun of it of like, yeah, it's serious, like, but it doesn't have to be super serious all the time. And that's one of the things that gets reflected about her versus other Slayers where they took it very seriously and like that was their whole life. Like Kendra trained forever. And like that was what she did. Robin Wood's mother was a very serious vampire hunter, but Buffy was kind of like, I have a life, and like teenagers were like, yeah, I have my like part-time job, but like I'm here to hang out with my friends.
And that her having those friends was always shown to be an asset and part of why she was like the longest living vampire slayer, because your friends are that, it was kind of validating how important you feel your friends are.
Yeah, and like especially like for teenagers, you're like, yeah, I've got my family, but like my friends in my world, that's who you spend the most time with. You see them at school, you see them at work, like you hang out with them after school. So like being like they're important.
I was actually just thinking about this earlier. The episode where we first see Spike for the first time, when he first comes in, and his goal is like, I have killed 2 vampire slayers in the past. I'm going to kill a 3rd, and he has no qualms. But then he even says it later to Drusilla that what made a difference this time, he thinks, is that she had a support system. She has family and friends, he said, and he's never seen that before. And her having that support system, like, it both gave her extra like hands on deck, but it also I think gave her something more to fight for. Because I think with vampire slayers, if you're just fighting for like humanity, that's very vague. That's very vague. But if you have like people in your life that you're fighting for, it gives you more to fight for. If that makes sense.
Agreed.
Yeah. Is Buffy still relevant today? And how do you think it would land with a modern audience?
Well, I know some parts of it I feel haven't aged well, just like any show. There's lots of shows from the 90s, early 2000s that the jokes that were, acceptable then are not now. And sometimes they say things that are, ableist slurs or things. So, because sometimes when I'm doing a rewatch, I have a little cringe of like, oh no, don't. But I think that's true of, like I said, lots of shows from 20, 30 years ago. But I think it's still relevant because there's still those themes of high school is hell, which was the big metaphor, and I don't imagine that it's gotten any easier. So I think that there's still a lot of the relatable drama, the interpersonal thing.
I think it's definitely still relevant. Like we still always want like a strong female character that's relatable. Where like, yeah, like we love that. Like, yes, she cares about her friends. She's like, I have to save the world, but I have like other things to do too. Me and Joanne had done a rewatch a few years ago, or started to at least. So like definitely certain episodes definitely would not like be remade. It was a really weird experience where the episode in season 1 where Jonathan's like in the bell tower of the school with a gun was pre-Columbine. You watched that airing, and I watched it a few years later. And so like for our age gap, I was like, there's no before Columbine. Whereas Joanne remembers that. And I was like, oh my God, that was filmed before Columbine. And now school shootings are so much more common. And it wasn't treated as seriously it would be now after Columbine, after all the other school shootings in the past 2 decades since that first aired. And also possibly just not had because like there are so many like teenagers, school kids, like this is a constant worry for them. Whereas when it aired in 95, was it 95?
It was after 95.
That was, I think, 97, 98.
Well, because it started in 97, which I remember because that is the year I was born.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh my God. Summer, why did you just do that to me?
Because it's very funny. It's very funny to me. Harry Potter came out the same year.
Oh my goodness.
I'm the same age as Harry Potter.
And I'm the same age as Buffy, so isn't that a nice thing we can have for ourselves?
Yeah, what I think makes Buffy so relatable is that she's such a human character, and she's so like she's incredibly flawed in a very relatable way. She has to live up to this unbelievable sense of pressure, but we still get to see her being 16 and making stupid 16-year-old decisions and saying dumb stuff. And I want to go back to what I said before about how she's a very feminine heroine, and I want to just like preface that there is no correct or wrong way to be feminine. There's no correct or wrong way to present femininely. What I meant was just from my personal experience. Growing up, I've always really loved things that are air quote traditionally feminine. Like I always was really into fashion and really into like dolls and the color pink. But then as I grew up, it was kind of inherently like put in my brain that like that's weak, and it's weak and not cool to act like that. And so I tried for a while in my youth, I tried to be like a tomboy because I thought that was what I was supposed to be like. And it took me a while to relearn what I liked because instead of what I was told was acceptable. So to see Buffy be a strong character that is also very traditionally feminine just was very inspiring to me personally. That's what I meant by that. I just wanted to clarify. There's no correct or wrong way to be feminine. This is how I was inspired by it. But she's also like, we get to see her be selfish, and we get to see her be vain and shallow, and we get to see her be sad and have trauma. We get to see physical expressions of her trauma too. Like she
The
like
overalls of
visibly,
sadness.
yeah, she visibly breaks down like various times. She doesn't just bear with it. She like breaks down a lot. And I think that's very realistic and very relatable.
Yeah, I think that I think it would still be relevant. I don't know if I'd ever want to see. Oh, probably skipping ahead, like a reboot, but definitely like there are real life scenarios in there, high school, college issues, and I even felt the college they did better. That like Xander didn't go to college, so what did he
Yeah.
do with his life? That's important to see. That like, hey, and he's still successful even though he didn't go to college. And then Buffy, went and then obviously had to, died and then went back to college, and it wasn't for her then, and how she had to like they lost their parents, so I feel like they had some really strong real life scenarios that everyone can go through at different points in their life, and that's why it would be relatable.
Right. And
I
that
do
first
also want to say, oh, sorry, Joanne.
Sorry, I was just thinking about like in the back when we pretended like her dad was a thing in the beginning, where like her big fear, like everybody had these fears of clowns and having to go perform without knowing the lines. Her big fear wasn't the vampires. Her fear was that her dad didn't want to be around her anymore.
Right, because her parents are divorced, right?
Which was so touching to me. Like that really, I remember feeling so sad for her that like her nightmare wasn't becoming a vampire or getting killed. Her nightmare was rejection by a parent.
Right. Yeah, which is I think is strong. I think many of us, that's a strong, powerful emotion, and I think a lot of us go through, especially in high school and college. You're trying to like please your parents, or making sure you're the perfect person. I think also I want to go back to in the beginning when I said, oh, they had a lot of LGBTQ. They probably didn't. They probably had one LGBTQ couple, but it was important because it was probably the first that I saw in mainstream media. So I realized afterwards, oh wait, it's not that they had a tremendous amount of, but they to have one LGBTQ couple and lesbian couple and a main character of a show that was important, at the time and still till today.
As you mentioned before, our next question is, who would you like to see playing the main characters if they did a reboot?
I feel like this one was hard just because I'm old and I don't know like the young cool actors now, but I was thinking of Jason Dohring, who was in Veronica Mars. I think that he could play Spike nicely.
What? Who?
I actually had to Google because I'm like, does he still look good?
I don't know any actors either, to be fair.
So yeah,
I co-wrote this with my roommate because she actually knows actors.
Yeah. I don't want a reboot. Let's be clear. I don't want a reboot.
No.
I am tired of seeing reboots. I said this before we started recording. I don't want a reboot. I would like a either prequel or a continuation where we get to see a different Slayer in a different time period. Preferably, personally, I would like a prequel because, as we know in the 7th season, the way that Slayers are reborn changes. So I would like to see a previous Slayer in like a different different time period. Not necessarily like Robin's mom or the other Slayer that Spike kills, because those are like the only other ones we ever see. But like
Right.
maybe like a Slayer in like the 1800s.
Her
Doing
name was
something cool.
Elizabeth. It's in the extended lore, and there's a book about it. It's called Pretty Maids All in a Row, and it's Spike and Drusilla. And I read that book, and I have it still. I bought it like
I will read it.
20 years ago. Yeah, it's on my shelf. I'll just send it to you. I really liked it.
So yeah, I want more. I want more content in that world, but I don't just want a reiteration. I'm done with it. Leave it be. Let it be what it is.
Oh, for Spike, I put Jamie Campbell Bower, the guy that plays Vecna when he's not scary looking. Buffy, I put Dove Cameron.
Ooh, I
She
like
has
that.
She's girly, but she's athletic. So you're like, yeah, she can fight a monster.
Yeah, and she's super tiny. Also, like, she's a really good actress. People don't think that because she's like a Disney Channel star, and people like to like belittle Disney stars, but she's a really good actress. I can totally see it. And can you imagine if they did another musical episode with her?
She'd be so good.
Oh my God. Okay, now I'm in for it. Only if it's Dove Cameron. That's the only acceptable option now.
Xander, I gender flipped and put Beanie Feldstein.
Ooh.
Yeah, I kind of was like, cool, we got the characterization. I don't care what we're going with gender-wise. Because I was like, that's an interesting change of like, because I was like, well, who's the current Jonah Hill? And I was like, no, it doesn't even matter. We're going to do Beanie Feldstein. Like,
isn't that his sister?
What kind is it?
Oh my God.
She's his sister of one of those main comedic actor guys.
Okay.
I think they might be brother and sister.
Oh,
if not him, then another guy like him. I can totally see Beanie in his Xander's incredibly ugly season 1 shirts.
Yes.
He would wear them better though. She would look better in them.
Oh yeah, it would be a whole vibe instead of like fell through a closet.
Oh my God, you're right. It is. I Googled it really quick. It is Jonah Hill.
Oh, I didn't even mean to do that. I was just like,
that is amazing, Chris.
Accidentally choosing.
And Summer, bravo with that pop culture knowledge.
Thank you. It's because another vampire content. I love What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh,
and
me
Beanie,
too.
Beanie was in like 1 season, and I want her to come back so bad.
Oh, she wasn't in like the first season.
Yeah, but she was so good. I want her to come back. But yeah.
No, I could again. I feel like I'm out of touch. I would be like telling you characters that maybe you aren't even actors anymore.
This
I
is
think
really
also
good so far.
I like Summer's idea, not to have a reboot, but more like spin-offs or something from it. Not another reboot.
Do you want to scrap the question and just move on to the
No,
next one?
I want to hear what you have to say though, because I do like what you're saying. Like if it had to happen.
All right. For Willow, I chose Terry Hugh or Who. They are non-binary. They played Aspen in Zombies 3.
I don't. I'm googling them right now. Terry, T-E-R-I.
Yeah, Terry, and they're non-binary.
Oh, they were just on the cover of. On the cover of
okay.
Out, or they were on the cover of magazine I saw recently. It said something about Disney and non-binary.
Yeah, they're cute, really cool, but they still have to be ginger though. They have to dye their hair orange.
I'm okay with that. But I thought it was cool because like with the gender flip Xander and then non-binary Willow, it would still be LGBT representation and actually more. And also just more diversity where like Buffy was pretty white.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The whole show. I mean, yeah.
Like the whole show was pretty white. So like.
Yeah, I mean they killed off their one like reoccurring Black character when they killed off Kendra, which by the way, like all the love I have love for Faith, but I kind of wish we saw more Kendra instead of her.
Oh my God, Kendra, I put as Bianca Lawson still because she hasn't aged.
Agreed.
Oh, the same actress.
You're
right.
Playing a teenager for like 30.
That is true.
And I just thought it was really funny. I was like, nah, that woman doesn't age.
Maybe she is actually a vampire.
Ooh, that would be cool. And then Cordelia, I have Olivia Rodrigo.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Oh.
Giles James Marsters.
Oh my God, that would be so cool. I actually like if they had to make a reboot. I think this is the only acceptable casting.
But they should name him Randy Giles.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because like Giles had that like Ripper background where he was like,
that's right.
Had that past. So having James Marsters swoop in, still be like that like tough edge, but like now he's like the right age to be like the older mentor. And then Angel, I had Timothée Chalamet.
No.
Okay, I do not agree with that.
I don't like Timothée Chalamet. Like, he's a good actor, but there's something about him where I like hate his face.
Timothée?
Yeah, I don't like his face.
I
Like, it's something
disagree.
about him where I'm like, I kind of
Apologies,
low-key
Timothy,
hate
if you're
you.
listening.
Yeah.
No, nothing's wrong with him.
I'm
I
so
just
sorry, sir. You're good at acting, but
no,
like,
there's nothing wrong with him as an actor or a person. I just personally can't see him as Angel. That's the one thing wrong with your list. I'm sorry.
see, my thing is like, I don't like Angel that much, and I don't like him that much, but I think he could do the accent, like the Irish accent, unlike David Boreanaz. And I think he has that like kind of same like he can be like, oh, so sad and torture.
Yeah, I just think it's because he looks so much like he's dying of consumption.
Perfect. He's
But
a vampire.
I don't know.
You
I
have
just
to
feel like
eat people.
I don't know. I don't like Angel that much either, to be fair. I just can't see Timothée as him. I don't even know if that's how you say his name. I just think it's funny. Timothée.
And then we mentioned Spike with Vecna, and then Joyce Summers, Lucy Lawless.
Wait.
Who would be Joyce Summers?
Lucy Lawless, Wonder Woman.
Oh.
No,
It's
it's
my
Lucy
fan
Lawless is Xena.
Sorry, yes, Xena. Oh my
I was
god.
gonna say that's not Wonder Woman. Yeah.
No, Lucy Lawless, Xena.
I'm
That'd be
picturing God, she was married to Ben Affleck.
Jennifer Lopez.
That was
No.
too many people.
No, who was he
Oh,
married
Oh, you're
to?
thinking Alias. Jennifer Garner.
Yes, thank you.
Jennifer Garner.
I feel like she has that very like sweet mom making hot cocoa for Spike.
That's true.
Yeah, but like, I was thinking like Joyce was like a tough lady. Like,
Right, but
she's like
Jennifer
a
Garner did
mom.
Alias.
Yeah.
I thought of a
Jennifer
person.
Garner's-
I thought of a person for Angel that I like better, and not to be like two characters from Descendants, but who's the guy who plays the son of Captain Hook in Descendants?
Oh my god, I had him down too. It's something. His name is something weird. I was like,
Thomas Doherty.
Yes,
But
I was
he's
looking at
because
him too.
he has the same like hooded, like droopy, sleepy eyes as Timothée, but I think he just is less like. I think it's because I can't not. Timothy is like the same age as me, around the same age as me, but I cannot help seeing him as a child. He looks like a tiny, sickly Victorian boy. And I feel like Angel needs to look a little bit more like an adult because he is. So yeah, I think Thomas Doherty, and then we have a Descendants cast reunion.
I'm here for it. And then
I think Dove Cameron and Thomas Doherty dated. Even I'm not sure if it was fake, like for the celebrity, but they definitely like air quote dated.
oh,
Mhm.
And then I had Anya as Elizabeth Gillies from Victorious. She was on Broadway.
I love it.
So either her as Anya or her as Drusilla, because I think she could do either one well. And then Tara, I had gender flipped again. And Milo Manheim, who played Zed Necropolis from Zombies 3. It's just a Disney party right now, but like they're the right age, and I don't know like younger actors because I'm like I'm old.
Yeah. I only recently like watched The Descendants. I didn't actually watch all of the movies. I watched some of it, and I listened to the songs that they slap.
Oh, they do. They're so good.
Because I was like, everyone's obsessed with this show. I have to watch it. And I watched some of it and I was into it. Although I was watching it, I was just like, this 16-year-old boy becoming like the president of this country. What is happening?
All I could think was Ice Town from Parks and Rec. So like, oh no, he's going to make Ice Town.
Yes, at least he was 18.
Yeah.
I love that cast list. That was good. That was a good one.
It was like a 2-week like rotating, like who do I want to put where? It was like Margot Robbie should be somewhere. I'm like Margot Robbie is too old unless we age the whole cast up.
Well, she'd be good as Drusilla.
Oh, she would be a good Drusilla.
Yeah, because she has that like she's like those like sharp cheekbones.
Yeah, very like dramatic.
And I think she can play like that unhinged.
Yeah.
But take her seriously. Man, I love Drusilla.
She was so good. Like also her and Angel, like when like the spin-off show, not like her dating Angel, like she got more and she wasn't totally like completely unhinged in that one.
I actually didn't watch that much of Angel.
Yeah, I couldn't stick with it.
I watched it all the way. I watched when I watched the last season because James Marsters was there. And then I went back and watched seasons 1 through 4, and like that's where you get to see like really great, amazing growth with Cordelia as a person that I wish they had kept more of. And also like there was so much growth with Cordelia between Cordelia and Angel. And then have Angel still pining over Buffy. And I'm like, no, this is dumb. He's in love with Cordelia and they are meant to be together. Like,
yeah, the thing is, like, I don't think I could stick with Angel. I only watched a couple episodes because, first of all, it was like the private investigator in Los Angeles trope, which I kind of was like, I feel like I've seen this a million times. Also, I never liked Angel that much to begin with. I probably would have only stuck with it for Cordelia, but I didn't.
Yeah, that's why I only watched it through once. And that was after I'd already watched season 5 because I was like, well, I'm gonna follow James Marsters where he goes because I want
I feel like they do make, from what I've heard, they make Angel very camp, like halfway through, which I do think would be fun.
Yeah, it's more fun. Like Angel and Buffy is like a different character almost, where he's like sad and brooding all the time. Whereas like he gets to be happy on Angel and like
That's true. I love how
I enjoyed that more.
at one point Spike says that Angel's as dull as a table lamp. I really like that.
Yeah, like Angel on Angel, great. Angel and Buffy, terrible.
Which just goes to show they were not good for each other.
Yeah.
People love Angel and Buffy, and I'm just like, why? I don't even see it. Even watching like the first season, I don't even see the chemistry.
Although, I'm sorry, do you remember I didn't watch a lot of Angel, but there was the episode of Angel where he became like not a vampire and they had like this one beautiful, perfect, loving day together, and then they like reversed it so nobody has any memory of this day except for him.
Yeah, which
So
is
he
so
has
messed up.
So
Yeah,
he has.
I do
think
feel
that's
bad
part
for
of why they had him, like, you know, that it's believable that he's still hung up because he has this memory of what they could have had.
But he chose to give it up.
He did, but he's
Yeah.
still burdened with those memories. So I do feel for him. Not that I think that they were the best pairing.
Yeah, I just feel like they didn't even have any chemistry. Like, if anything, they had more chemistry when he was evil. But he had chemistry with everyone when he was evil.
Oh yeah.
Because he was fun when he was evil.
Yeah.
Like Fun Angel is great. Sad Angel is terrible. And like Buffy was so young too. I'm like, Buffy, you lived a whole lifetime and died when you were dating Angel. Like you were a whole new person.
Yeah. We just
Why
have
are
to
you
hope.
still pregnant?
We just have to hope that after season 7 she just dates Faith. But you know.
I don't think she
Faith,
could.
single alone, you know.
Faith and Buffy had more chemistry than Buffy and Angel.
I feel like Faith deserves better than Buffy.
Yeah, Buffy was way too judgmental the entire time of everything about Faith.
I feel like if Faith and Anya ever got together, I could see that.
Oh
yeah. I saw someone online do this point something interesting out that like just like the dynamic between Faith and Buffy is very like not necessarily enemies to lovers, but it has all the hallmarks of a toxic romantic relationship. And like they were like, okay, so if Faith's character in this time period had been a boy, they would have got together.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
So that just gives you the sense of like they had so much chemistry. And if two girls were allowed to date in this show in the 90s before Willow and Tara, like they would have gotten together.
Yeah.
But they did not.
Hey, can we talk about the other gay couple, which was the football player guy?
Oh, the one that bullied Xander.
Does he get a boyfriend? I thought he was just gay.
Well, I don't know that we saw him dating somebody, but I remember there was something like later on because like Xander was like, oh, I know your secret, because I think it was like the werewolf episode, and he's like, don't tell anybody. And then by the following season he's like, oh, listen, what? And he's like, hey, I'm so out, my grandma's setting me up on dates. Like,
oh, that's cute. I just feel like when we don't see a character ever again, we have to be happy for them because it means that they got out of
Sunnydale. They did not turn into a vampire. No monster killed them. They probably, hopefully, survived the high school exploding.
Oh, I forgot I loved Oz too. Like when I rewatched it, I'm like, oh, Oz was a great character.
Wait, who's playing Oz?
Oh, I couldn't decide. Like,
yeah,
I don't know who the current I feel like a YouTuber. I feel like an edgy YouTuber or a TikToker would be for Oz because he's not in the whole thing, but like because Oz was in Austin Powers, like he was doing other things, but he's like the coolest character, like kind of like aloof and cool. So like having like the cool kid be like, hey, a YouTuber that like I get periodically because they were scheduling around him filming Austin Powers.
I'd like to see Oz a little bit more like a himbo.
I could see Timothy Chalamet playing Oz though, because he has that same like kind of monotone tone of voice.
Like, because Oz they were playing as like, you know, he was basically like a cool male version of Willow, where he was really like the intellectual, you know, he was kind of her intellectual equal, but just the polar opposite in terms of her really being into school and academic achievement and him not. But I think it would have been great to see Oz as like really gorgeous, dumb as a sack of rocks, but drinks that respect women juice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think that would have been fun.
And it would be that kind of guy that would see, like, everyone is overlooking Willow, like, this whole time,
That's
and
right.
no one can see, even Xander can't see how awesome Willow is, and he's known her his whole life. It would take, like, a very dumb hot man to be like, you know what, Willow's amazing, queen.
Yeah.
Because he's not hung up on expectations.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
think that's what when I watched it, yeah, I was like, "Oh, look, he was like, no, that girl, the one that when she was in the Eskimo costume
Yeah.
for the, just he was I was like, "Oh, I forgot about Oz." He was a great character.
Speaking of stuff that
Speaking
wouldn't
of
be
problematic
okay,
episodes.
Yeah.
Make a Mummy Girl was just like the cultural appropriation episode.
Oh yeah, that was
Oh, yes.
Super awkward.
Yeah, now we're like, that probably wouldn't happen. Or like,
Yep.
it happened differently somehow.
Right.
I was just gonna say we could still have a reincarnated mummy episode. Just don't make it like, here's our cultural appreciation dance, and we're all gonna dress up in sombreros.
Right.
Which was
Like,
a thing
they could
that
talk
happened
about,
in
like-
the 90s.
No,
Summer, I have to tell you.
I'm sure. I just mean we wouldn't do it now.
Yeah, but like having like the mummy and like it would touch like a modern reboot and it would touch more on like, hey, we stole a bunch of things from Egypt. If it's in a museum, it was probably stolen. Like
Yeah.
it would touch more on that of like her being like, you took me away from my home and like address that issue rather than her being like, I'm gonna steal like the life force of some dudes and like run around looking real cute.
Yeah, and we can have like a
Like-
funny moment with Giles or that being like, I'm assuming it's gonna be Willow being like, isn't everything in the British Museum stolen? And Giles is like, okay, let's not get into this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like it would like touch on that more and like bring that in there with it.
Yeah, we can still have the cool mummy.
Yeah, yeah.
That could
Like,
still
cool
be a
mummy,
thing.
but also like we're gonna talk about like some stuff around it.
Realness.
So we had mentioned that most of us do not actually want to reboot, but there has been a ton of spin-off materials. So what have you guys consumed out of our spin-off materials?
Well, I listened to a podcast, and Summer, I just found out that you listened to as well, Diane.
I found out about it from you, Joanne.
Oh, okay.
You told me about it. Now I love it.
So yes, it's called Buffering the Vampire Slayer, and it's these two women are the main hosts, and they review every episode of Buffy, spoiler free. And the one host, Jenny Owen Youngs, is a singer songwriter, and she writes original songs about the episodes. So obviously their episode recapping the musical was phenomenal. But they've had some guests on their podcast from the show, and they've had bonus episodes where they talk about things about like representations of different cultures and how people of color are depicted. And I'm listening right now, I'm not finished, I'm partway through the episode about Willow and her Judaism and her witchiness and how those relate. I'd say that's my main Buffy spinoff that I consume, and I have tickets to go see the final episode that they are recording
What?
next month.
I haven't watched all the podcast episodes, so I didn't even know they were finishing. Now I'm sad.
I'm sorry to bring a bummer.
Also, for anyone listening, the two hosts are also queer women, and so they talk a lot about the queerness or lack thereof in different episodes of Buffy. Just wanted to point that out. Not that I thought Joanne wasn't going to point it out. I was just like, oh, light bulb.
Well, you know what? I remember listening to the beginning episodes where one of the women had watched Buffy, before many times. And she said, I watched it because when I got to college, I realized that if you wanted to date girls, you also had to watch Buffy.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
And in my brain, like I hadn't clocked it as being like a particularly queer show when I watched it, because I was like in high school and I was just like, okay, they have a gay character, but I wasn't reading it that way. And then I'm like, well, duh, obviously I didn't read Xena that way either, though. So,
I feel like so many shows don't start off like the creators aren't like, I'm gonna make a gay show, but then all the fandom is just like, this is a gay show.
I adore that podcast. So anybody who's a Buffy fan, I highly recommend Buffering Vampire Slayer.
And they do a Buffy fashion update moment where they talk about all the outfits from the episode, which I love dearly. I really like for extra media content, there's quite a few Buffy novelizations that are sequels or prequels, and there's still a few new ones coming out. One that I read that I really liked was called Slayer by Kristen White. and it's a duology, but I've only read the first one. And it is a take on, it's a continuation, so it takes place like a couple years after the events of season 7, and it's about a girl who was raised by the Watchers Council, like in that whatever the group is that like trains the Slayers, does all the demonic research. She grew up in that environment with a bunch of other kids who were like the children of Watchers, and she finds out that in the aftermath of season 7, a bunch of Slayers start being reborn, and she is reborn as a Slayer, which is a problem for her in the sense that like she's always been like the less powerful one of her friend group, and even her twin sister is like considered stronger and more powerful and more successful than her, and she's always kind of like the meeker one. So she comes into these powers, and she has to deal with that. And then there's also like these demons being kidnapped in the surrounding area, and there's a bit of a mystery element to it. And what I really liked about it is that it discusses new ideas, but still refers to a lot of the stuff from the original show that we love. Like it refers to other characters, even though they aren't main characters in the book. And to me, it read very much like an episode of Buffy. Like as I was reading it, the vibes were immaculate. I felt like I was watching an episode of Buffy. So that's a good one if you're looking for extra content.
So you mentioned Slayer and then the sequel Chosen. This year, actually, the book In Every Generation just came out, and it's from Willow's daughter's perspective. And this one is it's got all the licensing for Buffy, so like it is fully affiliated. Whereas I think Slayer and Chosen are like definitely Buffy, but not quite Buffy. Where it's Willow's daughter is like going to high school now on the Hellmouth, and like she's trying to just like go through high school, and now like magic and stuff is happening, and she's like, great.
Was it?
I didn't read it. I've only read the summary, and I just pulled it up to double check the name. So like, I don't know how good it is, but like if you're here for more Buffy content, definitely go for that. It's going to be new generation, but they're still going to have the characters because like her mom is Willow, so like they're still going to have the characters floating around in there.
I was just going to ask if it was good because I've heard a lot of mixed thoughts on it. And I'm sorry if I keep.
Yeah, because I'm worried. The other thing is I read the Buffy season 8 and I think part of season 9 comics like 80 billion years ago, which are like okay, but except they're like they're canon, sort of, not really. Like they're not great.
It's also a new YA book. I'm not sure if it's coming out or if it's already come out, but apparently it's called Fool for Love, and it's about Spike before when he's younger, like a younger vampire.
Yeah, it's bloody Fool for Love.
You have it.
Bloody Fool for Love, a Spike prequel. Remember, I'm at Tom's River, so we get things usually a little bit faster. But this did come out in August, so I just got it, and it's going to be, this series is going to be, it says the beginning of an all new series that explores prequel stories about the fan favorite Buffy the Vampire Slayer characters.
Oh.
So this one goes after he kills his first Slayer. I didn't read it yet. We do have that in, and it's neat because it's going to have other, there are going to be other ones after that.
I also read the Boom Comics reboot of the Buffy comics, which is a limited run. It's not like it's going forever. Like it finished in March. I think I technically haven't read the last volume, where they made it more modern, like basically a modern reboot of Buffy. So they made a few interesting changes. Where you get Anya right away. She doesn't date Xander. Xander fairly early on ends up being like partially turned into a vampire, which is an interesting like development. And then because it's set in like 2020, I think is when it started being released. So they're like, yeah, Willow's a lesbian, and just started right off with that because they're like, yeah, it's been like 20 years. We can just start there. It's fine. So that was really cool to see, and like the changes where they kept kind of like core values similar, but like instead of Cordelia just being like a huge mean bully, she's like really like popular and invested in like, who let these balloons go into like loose, like this is bad for the environment, like caring about the environment, like more about that than like I'm just gonna bully people and be a mean cheerleader.
Using her powers for good.
Yeah, so like using it a bit more for good, but still kind of like I'm the popular girl. So like it was interesting changes. Like I didn't love it the way I love like the original series, but it was interesting. And then they had like a Spike spinoff because they had Spike for a little while with like him and Drusilla being like, we're gonna cut you loose. So they're like, and go hang out with Angel now, because that's what everyone wants anyway. And then they just ended that because it's a comic run, so like sometimes you just get canceled. I was reading that we're in the middle of an arc, and I guess I'll never know how this ends now.
You have to write it yourself.
I mean, I It has been many years since I wrote fan fiction, but I can do it.
I would very much like to see a like parallel universe spinoff with Spike having like a Bloomin' Onion food truck.
That's
Oh my
right.
God,
in
yes.
the onions, yes.
Oh my god.
Like, can I request somebody to write that? Like, there should be a thing on AO3 where you just like put in a request.
There is.
Like, I will pay you. I will pay you in Bloomin' Onions if you write this story because I think it would be really fun.
Sometimes in my darkest hours, I'm just like, I need to get really into writing fan fiction because I've read a lot of fan fiction, but I've never written it. And I would probably do Buffy, or I would probably do, to be honest, I would do like self-insert Hellboy fan fiction because I love Hellboy.
Oh,
All right.
Outing myself. I love Hellboy. He's the love of my life.
that's a good choice for like. He's solid. He's a good choice.
I think we have so much content like on Hoopla. I was looking up, we have so many like e-comics. I did read the Willow series, which is on Hoopla.
Yeah,
And
that's
like
fair.
then there's Buffy, and then there's another one, Buffy Hellmouth. So I think if you're looking, and we have lots of books now, but I think if you're looking for like other content, Hoopla has probably the most in our collection.
Yeah, the Willow comics, partway through the Buffy reboot, through Boom, Willow goes off on her own. It's like 5 issues, then she comes back to the group, so you get to see what she's doing while she's like going through her feelings in those comics. And it's like Buffy, and then goes into Buffy Hellmouth, which is still all the same Boom, one single run, and then splits into Angel. And they had one comic that was one of the earlier Slayers. I have it. I don't remember what happened in it. My friend owns a comic shop, and he just kept being like, "Here," I'm like, "I'm reading them, but I'm also paying you for them." I'm like, "The library is free, but I'm gonna buy them anyway."
Yeah, I buy so many books that I've already read at the library because I want to own them in like my little dragon hoard of books.
Mhm.
And now I'm moving, so I'm just dreading all the boxes. And I'm like, I'm not getting rid of any of them. None of them are leaving my domain.
You just need small boxes when you move if you're a book collector.
Yeah,
Because
you gotta accept it.
then you're like, oh wait,
Pack the books in the suitcases that have wheels.
I've
Ooh,
tried that. There's too many.
oh no.
That's part of being a librarian.
Yeah. It
Right.
could be it could be something worse. It could be like old newspapers
Oh.
or cats.
There's nothing wrong with collecting cats.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, do you guys have any favorite quotes? Because there are so many quotable moments. It's hard to pick.
Ooh.
Well, okay, so the one that I actually have open on my phone, and I'm sure, she said it a few times, and it was from the 2001. She said to Dawn, the hardest thing in this world is to live in it, which is, I think we all, it's hard to live sometimes, but, and that's a simple quote, but it's true. What about you, Summer?
I have a couple. One I should probably say is the one that I have tattooed on me, which is that in the second episode, they just finished saving the world for the first time, and they're going off talking about something stupid. And Giles says the Earth is doomed because the Earth is in the hands of these teenagers. And then in the last episode, he says it again before they're about to defeat like the biggest evil. He says the Earth is doomed. So I had that tattooed on me because I love
Okay.
Giles. And I like the symmetry of that. Like when I first heard that in the episode, I was like, "Yo, he said the thing." But I also love in the season finale of season 2 when Buffy is fighting Angel, Evil Angel, and her friends are somewhere else. They're not there to help her, and he says something like, you're out of weapons. You have no friends. You have no hope. If you take all that away, what's left?" And then he tries to stab her in the face with a sword because they're sword fighting, and she catches it between her palms and says, "Me." And that, like, kind of like the whole thing where it's like, yeah, she's alone, but she being herself is enough to stop him. And that really is a really powerful moment for me.
Totally different vibe. One of my favorite quotes from the show is from the episode Pangs, which is the Thanksgiving episode. And they say romance is dead, or maybe they just wished it.
That was a funny episode.
And it's one of my favorite episodes. And
That was the first episode I ever watched.
it was hilarious. Just the delivery and like that whole scene where they're eating Thanksgiving dinner and there's arrows stuck into the table around them. And
Spike is tied to a chair.
Mhm.
That's right.
Yeah, just
With
the
the
whole
arrows sticking
vibe
out, yeah.
was so funny. And yeah, maybe they just wished it.
Oh my God. Or when he's like, "You made a bear. Undo it."
Do it.
That's the thing. Going back to the balance, what you said about the balance of Buffy, like there's incredibly moving, powerful lines, and then there's incredibly silly, hilarious lines, and they're equally amazing.
Like the blooming onion, yeah.
And then I just really like Oz's like weird tangent he went in. I don't even know what episode about the animal crackers and why do the monkeys get pants?
I have my monkey dignity.
Yeah, and I just like
I mock you with my monkey pants.
I just love.
He also says, I attack the mayor with hummus.
And then there's the heart-wrenching monologue when Anya is totally messed up over Buffy's mom's death, where she just can't, that gets me, every time, because she's like, over 1 million years old and has only recently had to struggle with her being mortal again, and it really just throws her for such a loop. And she's trying to make sense of it, but they're all trying to make sense of it, and that moment every time, guys, every time.
That was so good. Like the episode of like after Joyce dying, like just crying so hard. That one won an Emmy, right? Or got nominated for it, something.
I don't know.
They got nominated for like
the fact that Sarah Michelle Gellar never won an Emmy is insane.
Yeah. No, they won for like
She
costume
really
design, which I mean, there was a lot of elaborate work going on in that, but like.
Are the Emmys the TV show awards? I don't know which awards are which.
Emmys are the TV show awards. They won 2 Emmys. I think it was both like costume design and makeup. And I mean, they got nominated for 52 awards across kind of everything. Or they won 52 awards across like a bunch of different things.
Okay, I was checking.
2 were Emmys.
I was checking. There's the actress who plays She-Hulk, Tatiana Maslany. I was checking to see if she had Emmys, and she only won one Emmy. She was nominated for 3, but
let's make her Giles in the reboot that we don't want.
Tatiana.
Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to check out our website, theoceancountylibrary.org/FanNation, for all events happening this year, in person and virtually. All titles mentioned in today's episode can be accessed free with your library card. Until next time, have a fantastic day.